Hi guys, it's Christina and I'm here with Thurston. We're in Future Wellness and we wanted to make a video today to talk about the current situation with the coronavirus pandemic and our take on it and things you can do to really make a difference to the risk factor. And yeah, just do you want to take away where?
Sure, yeah, because I mean it's now almost 3 months. We're coming into June, just at the end of May. And we were, this really started at the beginning of March, so it's been a long time. A lot has happened, and definitely we have some kind of, I suppose, interesting takes that I definitely aren't seem to be talked about a lot. So that's why we wanted to really share this information with you. So my take on it is, at first, I didn't think much of it. I heard about this thing in China and, you know, the numbers seemed really small. It was no big deal. And then suddenly it started to read, whoa, this is something serious. Now, of course, I had something big going on in my life at the time, little Zoe. So that was taking my attention. But then as soon as this thing hit, it hit big. So the first thing that really struck me, and I kept waiting for this to be talked about in the media, but no one seemed to be talking about it, is the fact that the mortality rate was pretty much almost exclusively, like 99% of people that were dying had a serious underlying condition, and 88% had 2 major underlying health conditions. And they were all to do with your metabolic health. So that's the thing that I thought, wow, very few people are talking about that aspect, because when you think about it just in a very simplistic way, you've got this virus that's out there, and of course you're trying to avoid getting it, or you're trying to avoid the spread happening too fast. But when you get this 2 things happen. You get this thing, but then you've got your own body, your own level of health, your immune system of how it's going to fight it. So, you know, it takes 2 to tango, basically.
How is that working?
Exactly. So while everybody's talking about the spread, nobody's talking about your current state of health, your immune system, and how we can look at that part.
And
so everyone's talking about one part.
Metabolic health, just as examples.
So metabolic health,
health.
because a lot of people think, oh, it's just your metabolism and how much you burn fat or something.
Yeah, because I think people will hear that.
Yeah, but metabolic health is really your health at a cellular level. So it's your kind of internal health. I always recommend people to watch Dr. Robert Lustig. He has a great explanation. We'll link to this as well in the video. But metabolic health is, everything kind of comes under that category, from heart disease, cancer, diabetes, obesity, all of these factors, dementia, etc., is your metabolic health.
The top killers, essentially, yeah.
Because that was the big thing. When you look at this, the main risk factors, the top 3 risk factors is number 1, hypertension, number 2, obesity, and number 3, diabetes. So they're all things to do with your metabolic health. And like I said, nobody seems to be talking about this, is ignoring it. Whereas to me, that should be front and center.
Absolutely,
I mean, even before the pandemic, and this is obviously our whole lives, is addressing that. And it is a much bigger issue than the coronavirus. This is just one thing that is affected by that. But
and that number 1 marker, the hypertension, the blood pressure, it was 56% of people who died with the virus had high blood pressure, which is something is quite, you know, there's a lot of things we can do naturally to support bringing down our blood pressure. It's just shocking to me that this is such a huge part of it, because like I said, I mean, if we all had perfect health and immune systems, well, then this thing would be nothing, you know. So I just don't understand why people aren't really talking about that. So that's the thing that my biggest takeaway, and it is because it's our lives, it's what we do with people, is to help people with weight management, is to help people with their blood sugar and blood pressure, and we get phenomenal results. We have been doing for decades. So that is my biggest takeaway. You know, why is nobody talking about, like, literally the elephant in the room? The biggest thing that affects 99% of people that are getting this. Yeah.
So.
And so basically 12% of the population are healthy. So that's...
Yeah, that's a huge thing that most people don't realize, is that 88% of us are metabolically not healthy. So when you look at metabolic syndrome that relate to all of those diseases that we're talking about and these risk factors, it shouldn't be like that.
Yeah, of the healthy people, was it 0.003% when calculated died from the virus? So
Yeah, you're literally down
that
to
healthy
between
section.
1 to 3 per 100,000. In context,
Per
14,
100,000, yes.
14, so roughly, I mean, it depends on exactly where it lands ultimately, but let's say it's 0.1 something. 14 per 100,000 die of road accidents. So you're 10 times more likely to die by driving to work than you are from the coronavirus if, and of course that's the big if, you're metabolically healthy. So if you could shift more people to becoming metabolically healthy, then this whole thing would be a non-issue. Or at least it would be a very, very small issue. So
what would those things be to change the risk factor?
So big things to change the risk factor, as we know, and what we do with all our members, is number one is what you're eating. So if you're eating ultra processed food, now unfortunately that's what most people eat. So the average person, their consumption of ultra processed food makes up 70% of what they're eating.
And we were saying that those sales have gone up at the moment.
Yeah, because during the pandemic, people are under stress and they dive for comfort foods. And then initially, there's very little things in the supermarket, everybody's scrambling and they want to get something that's
buying.
long shelf life, etc. That's a bit of part of it too. But yeah, the New York Times did this big article on that. So that was a huge factor. And unfortunately as well, during the pandemic, people are exercising 50% compared to what they normally do, even just movement throughout the day.
Yeah, it's crazy, 50% less.
Yeah, it's a perfect storm. So
Yeah.
we're in this situation, we've got all this stress, and then we're exercising 50% and we're eating even worse. And then we're slowly being exposed to the coronavirus. So the thing that we're not even talking about.
When we go back out to Publix, a lot of people are questioning, well, our immune systems have weakened from just even lack of diversity of bacterias and so on.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look at it, exactly those three risk factors. So hypertension, high blood pressure. Well, what happens when you exercise less? So we know exercise reduces your blood pressure, and you exercise less, it goes up.
One of the best things you can do in the research is the exercise to reduce your blood pressure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So exercise and eating poorly is going to have a worse effect. Obviously, obesity, well, if you're going to exercise less and eat more processed food, well, what do you think is going to happen to your weight? Well, clearly you're going to add quite a few pounds. And that's the second thing. And the third thing, diabetes. So your blood sugar, you eat more processed food and you're not exercising as much. So literally all the risk factors over the last 3 months for people is getting worse. So then when they do get exposed to the coronavirus, they're going to fare out worse. And nobody's talking about it. So that's, I guess, the main message that I think we should be
Yeah, and how
talking
that's
about.
impacting all other areas of their health as well, obviously. And we were saying earlier, like, if the news did a push for get out and do your walk or do your exercise and eat healthy, and you know, it would help.
Completely. I mean, that should be part of, I mean, we know so much in depth about washing our hands and germs and cleaning the surfaces and doing all of these things, which is important to slow the spread, but not even a mention of what's going to impact pretty much everybody is their health when they do get this. So you can slow the spread, but apparently it's just keep going to go, but it's just at a slower rate. So it doesn't mean we're not going to get it. So that's not even what they're aiming for. But they're in the process, we're going to fare out worse because of everything we're talking about. And the other point as well is, I don't know, this is a bit of I guess a big thing that we're always focused on is metabolic health is way more of a problem anyway, and it's something we should be tackling in front and center. And if anything,
It is a
this should
pandemic.
spark off that conversation.
Because when you look at something like diabetes 50 years ago, 1%, now it's 13%. So literally 13 times higher in 50 years. And that's killing 350,000 people a year. So
Wow.
over 3 times what the death rate is at the moment. So while we're saying, oh my God, like this
And
is,
it's a lifelong illness that you're suffering with. It's not 2 weeks, or
that's good.
it's you have it for decades if you live through it.
Exactly, yeah, which is a really good point. So I feel like, yeah, this is the underlying issue that's much greater and should be talked about anyway, and it's something that it's obviously our lifelong passion is to help people with their metabolic health anyway. But it's kind of interesting because I've always kind of said, we said this in workshops before, that it's the normalization of unhealthy behaviors is the problem. So when you go to work, you know, they're going to bring in donuts and they're going to bring in pizza if you're working late, and there's peer pressure and the sodas are all around you. You're literally creating an environment
People
for
can be
poor
nearly
metabolic
embarrassed
health.
to turn it down, they say.
Well, we
I
know
would say
from
it inspires others if you
but
do.
we know from our own members that have goals that want to improve their health, whether it's their blood sugar or losing weight, etc. And they find it hard because of the environment. So
It's not
while
supportive.
you know, I kind of see this as, well, we should apply this to metabolic health because it's socially now unacceptable to, you know, to not wash your hands and do all these things because we should care about other people. Because, you know, wearing the mask in public and in closed spaces, in crowds, it's not to prevent you, it's for other people. So why should we not do the same thing with metabolic health? Like, why should we bring in donuts and put them in front of people? You know, I feel just as strongly about that as I do about these factors. So I wish we could apply that, and then, oh my God, you could literally see a very different future.
Yeah,
it would be pretty
we've
amazing.
seen that in the companies we've gone into and implemented a healthier kind of culture in the kitchen in particular. The knock-on effect was huge. People would say they already lost 10 pounds just by joining the company before they'd sign up with us, and their wife lost 20, 30 pounds just from the knowledge. The knock-on effect is huge when you do give people
100%. You change the environment, and then you almost have to go out of your way to be unhealthy if your environment is healthy. You know, so it's the same with hygiene. If the environment is hygienic, well, then that's good. But you know, if everyone's not doing that, well, then obviously these things are going to spread. So
and it's just habit really change at the end of the day, isn't it? So it's not hard for anybody to do these things. It's habits, you know, create change. And
yeah, 100%. And that would always be kind of my argument as well. How do we manage to do it for hundreds of thousands of years
we
up
stayed
until
in
like
great
50
shape.
years ago? And then
you look
suddenly
back at the
we did
photos
this.
of, you know, people in the 1950s and 60s, even the 70s, they were all in great shape, and they weren't really going to gyms, were they?
Yeah.
They were just in good shape.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're probably moving around more during the day.
But they weren't putting any, like, they weren't doing the dieting and the exercising that people believe is the solution, which it is, but it's more of a lifestyle. Yeah. So when do you think things will return to normal, or what will that look like? The future?
It's really hard to know because obviously this has had such a huge impact on everyone's lives. The economy, I mean, that could take years because it looks like it's going to cost $9-10 trillion. A lot, like just here locally already, a lot of people are saying that they're going to be working from home indefinitely. So I think that is going to be a big change. For how many, for how long, I mean, who knows? But there seems to be a definite trend going towards that for definitely the next few months, because already some of the companies have reached out to us and said, well, we're going to be working from home for the next 6 months. Some people have even mentioned a year, 2 years indefinitely. So I think that's going to be very different. With the actual coronavirus, again, I'm not an expert when it comes to that. Is there going to be a second wave? Are we going to build up immune to it? Is there going to be a vaccine? When? How? I have no idea to any of those kind of things. But yeah, I don't see it returning to so-called normal like just very quickly. I think, like I said, at the very least, economics are going to impact our lives dramatically. But yeah, I think a lot of people are going to be working from home for a much longer period of time. So I think that's one of the things that's going to happen.
Sounds a little depressing. So anything we can do?
Well, yeah. So in terms of, yeah, because it seems like, whoa, this thing, and there's so much unknown, so much uncertainty, like I said, all these negative aspects, and even just, well, if are the same amount of people going to get infected anyway? At what point is that going to happen? So so much can seem outside of our control. And I know, because obviously we do a lot of work in health coaching and the psychology behind behavior change and all that. And one of the biggest things when it comes to stress is not feeling that you have any sense of control. And like I said, with this, the only thing that people are sort of latching on to is something that they can do, and that's why they kind of latch on to it so much as well. I can wash my hands, I can wear my face mask, social distancing, and following the hygiene regulations, which is good. But of course, like I said, I mean, the big thing that we're talking about is something that's even more important, is taking care of your health. And I think that is something that is under our control and will give us a sense of control and really make a big difference to us both psychologically and physiologically. So when you start to take these steps, and this is something that we're working on behind the scenes, that as soon as we reopen, which will hopefully be sooner rather than later, our whole program for our members is going to be based around getting you back into your shape beforehand, because a lot of members have reached out saying they're struggling without the gym, without the accountability, without the consultations. Obviously, we'll be doing a lot through video, etc. But the whole program will be based around getting people back into shape very quickly. Because I think even in 2 weeks is our goal for all our members to get back to where they were, even after 3 months of being away. And then we're also going to introduce a new level, which is all about your immune system and metabolic health, to really optimize that. So we do have some good information and research to do with things like zinc, vitamin D, special nutrients that will have a big role in your overall health. So optimizing that, of course, microbiome. We've been talking about the microbiome for a long time. So that plays a big role. And then, of course, psychologically as well, I think having something positive to focus on, that's in your control, setting up your goals, and knowing that you're doing everything that you possibly can, reducing your stress, and focusing on goals so that you have a more positive outlook, I think will make a big, big difference.
Yeah, big time.
So I'm kind of excited to get working with all our members again and implement this plan that we have. Now, it is a whole program. Now, of course, our members, they already, when they're here, do the right type of exercise and largely do the right type of nutrition. Obviously, there'll be a few tweaks. But for new people that we'll be reaching out to, and of course, if any of our members have friends, colleagues that they would, want to help out, the program that we're going to have is all about metabolic health. It's going to be all about optimizing the perfect nutrition for that, and of course the right type of exercise that's been shown to reduce stress, cortisol the most effectively, increase BDNF and things like that.
And the exercise from home though?
Absolutely. So, and that's a whole other area that we're going to now do a lot more material, because even a lot of our members won't be back to work, so we're going to do a lot of more video material, workouts from home. We're going to do more like live Zoom. I know you've been doing a lot of Zoom workouts with our members, which is awesome.
It's kind of been a real learning curve for me to learn how to work out really intensely at home in the kind of 20-minute window. It can run into 25 or so minutes, but to really, maximize that intensity from home, it's been a good challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think the big thing is really understanding and emphasizing that's, like I said, to me, it's like, whoa, this should be a wake-up call for our metabolic health. This whole thing, to me, is like, whoa,
I think
we're
it
not
is
healthy.
for a lot of people.
Yeah, well, I just don't
Not the
understand why the
majority.
media aren't like, nobody seems to be saying, wow, we need to get healthier as a nation. We need to take this seriously.
I think the social media, you see it on that platform, you see the thoughts of the people a little more, and yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, what happens when the next thing comes? Are we just going to shut everything down again and go, hiding in our caves again? Or are we going to have incredibly good health?
In that
and
case, we need to
change that. Yeah, I mean, there's no, okay, here's a big thing that has been on my mind that I'd love to kind of get across is the intervention to change our metabolic health. Before it seemed insurmountable, not to us because we do it all the time and we think everyone should be doing it, but in general people go, oh, well, you can't make people healthier, and of course you can. But now when you look at it, it's minuscule compared to the intervention we've just been through. So I think in a very positive way, everybody genuinely cared and wanted to obviously protect themselves, but protect others and kind of work together to try to slow the spread. And there was a very good positive energy, regardless of whether you agree and how they did it. But there was definite positive energy.
Pulled together, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's much easier to not eat donuts or put donuts in front of people and have sodas and have this environment for ill health, and to change that and to change our attitude and perspective on that, and transform our metabolic health. And if you could imagine the news saying, oh, there's more cases of diabetes today and this happened and that happened, and oh, rather than talking about whether someone didn't wear a mask, well, someone put a donut, But I know it sounds funny, but you could absolutely do that. And you could completely transform, like we really could transform the whole nation's metabolic health, and with much less of an intervention. We don't have to shut down the economy. In fact, this would have a positive impact on the economy, and the interventions would be minuscule in comparison. Like I'd much rather than have to stay at home, I can't go to the beach, I can't go for a walk in the park, I can't go to work, I've literally, no employment. I'd much rather just not have to eat a donut in comparison. The intervention is minuscule in comparison. I'm not saying no one can ever eat a donut, but it should be taken more like alcohol. Like you don't go into an office where maybe at certain meetings people do, but it's not accepted that you're going to drink all day, every day on the job. I mean, you'd be fired, right? I'm sure there's laws against it. So, but it's okay to do that and shoot yourself up with sugar, So I do kind of think a little bit like that. Wow, this big intervention, you do a small intervention with this, and you could change not only this and any kind of future virus, but our overall metabolic health, and you would save millions of people's lives. I mean, okay, maybe I'm missing something.
To the choir.
I know, but why can't we do it? Like seriously, why can't we not do this? We did it for hundreds of thousands of years, up to 50 years ago. It's just ultra processed food. It doesn't take a genius to know, well, this fast food or whatever is not good for us.
The ultra processed food that had an impact on that metabolic health.
Absolutely, yeah. For every 10% of ultra processed food we consume, our rates of cancer increase by 12%.
I think it's even 13.
It's gone up to 13. Okay, could be. So yeah, that's a lot anyway. So
and you said earlier as well, this statistic for the amount of processed food, the average person's eating 70% of their diet.
Yeah.
So 13 times 7.
Yeah, and I know there are other factors that you got to think about.
91.
Socioeconomic, people live in food deserts, can't afford good food. But again, we've just spent $10 trillion. So can we afford to feed everyone healthily?
Real food at home. And
it's a drop in the ocean compared to the amount of money we've just spent.
True, yeah.
And it would literally have saved, again, if everyone was, okay, maybe you can't quite get to everybody, but if you got the majority of people metabolically healthy, like I said, 99% of people that are dying from this is because of their metabolic health. So why not address it? I think it could absolutely make a difference. So.
Yeah,
that's
brilliant.
my point.
And a question we get a lot is, when do we kind of see ourselves reopening, and do we have any kind of projection? Obviously there's no promises because we're just going with the
Yeah, so officially
guidelines?
we're part of phase 3 opening. Now they're already starting into phase 3, which is great. California-wise, although LA is slightly behind, our numbers are not as good, so we're slightly behind what the general California directive is. But they're already starting into phase 3, and we're part of phase 3. So there'll be sort of phase 3 A and then phase 3B. So, I mean, who knows, because it all depends on the numbers. It could all go backwards, it could go forward, but hopefully it'll be within the next few weeks. That's my hope.
And then when we do reopen, what will we do for hygiene? What's the plan?
So we've great hygiene plan. We're in a unique situation because, as you know, it's a much smaller membership. We've got these machines, and we're just going to restrict it to one person per machine. We've got 8 spray bottles of Force of Nature, which is again is approved by the FDA, etc., for really good hygiene. Yet it's healthy. It's not going to ruin your microbiome, etc. So we're going to spray down the machines every 20 minutes. So we're going to have a whole, and we'll send you a separate video on this, on the new procedures. But our goal is for literally, because we're in a unique situation, small control, there's always a
We can wipe
trainer.
it down after every usage, essentially.
Every 20 minutes. So it should be the most hygienic gym that you can get to in LA. So that's our goal anyway. So we'll have certain procedures. We'll send you out the details, but it's going to be, as you know yourselves, I mean, it's a great space, and we'll have it like absolutely perfect. So
And actually, they've done a great deep clean, haven't they?
Yeah.
Since we've been back. And then just really quickly, what about those who can't come back? Because I know a lot of people, their company is projected they'll stay home till the end of the year and that kind of thing. So
yeah, well, I mean, and we kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier on, but yeah, we're doing a lot more video work. We're going to do, we're going to continue that. So video consultations, which we've both been doing, video workouts, which Christina's been doing, and then we'll also do group classes as well. So we're going to sort of put that together in a proper structure and format with the proper login to a website and stuff like that. So
we've been kind of building for the group classes because it really has been a learning experience to see how can you do this from home and then add the numbers.
Yeah, and even because we needed access, because at one stage we weren't even allowed to come into the office at all. Now we're allowed into the office, so even having the proper setup with the internet and so on. So we're going to be able to start to do that now as well, which is great.
Yeah.
So
brilliant. Well, we hope to see you all soon, if not in here, online.
Yeah, so definitely stay healthy. For sure, obviously most of you know the best things to eat. Please reach out, keep emailing us as you're doing. Email us more with any questions, any problems you're having. Do book in for a consultation if you need that extra help and you're finding it hard to get the right foods or the motivation. Definitely contact Christina for the workouts, and we will definitely keep you on track until then. And then when you can come back, we'll take it up to a whole other level.
Yeah.
So,
Great.
see you soon.
See you soon.